Let's talk crochet and happy Vlogmas. Hey folks, it's Mary, aka MercyTriumphs, and this is Slow Crochet. Today I want to do a catch up on all the things that I've been crocheting in the month of November. Today is November 29th, 2025. And yes, I do kind of want to do a bit of a Vlogmas. So I'll talk more about that at the end. But for now, there is really kind of a Christmassy theme for the most part on what I've been crocheting. So I want to take this time to show the things that I have been working on. And I also want to just go over like the general things that I have crocheted for Christmas. And then talk about some works in progress, things that I want to do in the future, and talk about what Vlogmas means to me. I've never done it on this channel, but I thought it would be fun to do so. I do want to say real quick before I get started though, thank you to all of my new subscribers, everyone who's kind of come along with me on this adventure. I see you, I appreciate you, I'm glad you're here. Thanks so much for watching. So what are the things that I've been crocheting for this Christmas season? It's a lot of ornaments. It's a lot of similar ornaments, and it's things that I have kind of relied on in the past when I'm doing things like in multiples. So one of my absolute favorite, it wouldn't even be an ornament necessarily, but Complicated Knots. Every year she does a series of small crochet makes. She's been doing this for several years now, and one of the original I think it was like a 12 days of crochet thing. She had this wonderful frog, and I just love it. I cannot tell you how many of these I've made. I have at least 2 on my Christmas tree at this moment, and I've made them for neighbors, I made them for friends, and I made a whole bunch more of these for holiday gifts for a certain kind of set of people. I have several different groups of people in my life, and they all kind of get the same thing. So had to mention the little frog here, and the pattern is linked in the description below. Another thing that I've made so many multiples of are the colorful mushrooms by In the Yarn Garden, and that again is linked in the description. That's a free pattern, not a video tutorial, unlike Complicated Knots. But I've made quite a few of these, and I think at this point I have the pattern memorized. I do like that they're so pretty in different colors, and I have several different colors here. These are all done in a worsted weight wool, and it does depend. You can make them a little bit unique. You could put on some little accents on the top, little circles on your toadstools, or you can leave them as is, and just increasing the number of rounds at the end can kind of give a slightly different shape to the toadstool. I like to top them with a vintage bead. That just makes my heart happy there. They're all sitting in a little bowl, so pardon the sound of the little beads there. Another thing that I've made several of these, are these beautiful holly tree or holly leaves, and I made 2 of them. Y'all, I even frogged out a cowl to get more of this yarn because this is a K&C yarn, and it is so beautiful. But of course, K&C coming from Joann's, I haven't been able to find this anywhere else. I've been looking at Mary Maxim, I've been looking at Michael's, I've been looking at Hirschner's. I think those are the big 3 places that kind of took on the Joann's brands of yarn. Haven't been able to find them, but anyway, I think that particular yarn, it is a roving style, and it's just so perfect for these holly leaves. So yeah, doing 2 holly leaves, and instead of trying to do berries, I just did 3 little gold jingle bells. I guess you could do red jingle bells, but this is what I had on hand. So I've been making a bunch of these as well. Finally, the last kind of big ornament that I've made, this is for a group of people that every year I make a little something for them, but these, I'm going to call them snow flowers. But this is the Sakura Face Scrubby by Kame Crochet, and I've made a bunch of these in the past. I've made even the like the tote bag with this as the center at the bottom. I really love the design. It's only like a 4-row round kind of thing, but what I did was do 2 of them, and I held them together, and before I finished off my second one, I just slip stitched into the back loops all the way around, so they kind of come together. So I like that it could be a snowflake because it does have the 6 points, or it could be a flower. I thought it was just really pretty. So I made, I think, 7 of these. And yeah, it took me a while. I used a really small hook. I used like a sport weight wool yarn for that one. But I do have all those done and I'm really thankful. So again, link in the description to the Sakura face scrubby. I hadn't seen anyone doing like an ornament like that, but I thought it would be a really fun idea. You could probably also do this with coasters, like take a coaster design that you really like and hold them kind of back to back with the right side out and just kind of stitch around. But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential just for that idea. So let me know in the comments if that's something that intrigues you. We're always looking for new like crochet Christmas things and new ways to think about it, and other than just doing your bauble colors or covers rather. And so yeah, I think this might be an idea I come back to in the future, just thinking about different face scrubby ideas and different like snowflakey, flowery kind of thoughts. This would also be really pretty worked up in a sparkly yarn, but I didn't have any of that on hand. I tend not to be much of a sparkle yarn person, but yeah, I love how those turned out. All right, I did make 2 specific like one-off ornaments, and these are for an ornament swap that is coming up with a Christmas party that my husband and I are going to, and so I only made the 2 of them. One of them is Little Crochet Farm's Grinch. Little Crochet Farm does some beautiful, beautiful work, and I love her Grinch. I tried to make him perfectly grumpy. I did change up the pattern for the scarf a little bit. I think I just did like a moss stitch through there, and I did use a DK weight green yarn. It's one of these Willow Daily DKs that I've had, and I'm sure I used a teeny tiny hook. But yeah, I have made this Grinch in the past, I think. Pretty sure I have. Beautiful pattern. All of Little Crochet Farm's patterns tend to be really wonderful. Oh, and there at the top, I just kind of combed out a little bit of the yarn. I just kind of untwisted the plies to give him his little fluff. But yeah, that is my first ornament for the ornament swap. And then the next one is one that has had kind of an interesting history on the internet. So I originally saw this pattern on Ravelry years ago, and it was so sad because the original designer of the pattern no longer had it listed, but it was still like an image that was out there. So like I'm sure that you could see on Pinterest or whatever, you can see an image of this type of little Christmas ornament. So over the years, even though you couldn't get the original pattern, people would look at that picture and kind of cobble together their own idea of it. And that's actually what I did. However, when I went back in there, when I went into Ravelry to just kind of like help me organize, put it in my queue, that kind of thing, I did see that that original designer had re-uploaded a pattern that you can pay for and get. But I also saw that someone else had come out with a very similar pattern. And it just made me wonder, like if this original designer had taken the pattern down, but so many people over time had continued to make it, like they took the idea and ran with it and kind of made their own version of it. And then someone took it a step further and made a pattern following the original design, and then the original designer put up their original pattern again. Man, it sounds really complicated, and I don't know that it's really drama, but I just found it interesting kind of watching that thing. So here's what I made, and I don't have a pattern that I followed. I made it up. That's one of the beauties of crochet and the beauties of, how you can't like trademark or come up with like the granny stitch is now your registered intellectual property or whatever. Like it's an art, it's a craft. If you were a woodworker, you couldn't like patent your techniques necessarily, right? Like you kind of, the tools and the materials and you make what you can with it. So all that to say, I made a pig in a blanket. All that long-winded explanation to talk about this little piggy in a blanket. I did this completely out of worsted weight acrylics, except for the little eyes. And I used a slightly darker color pink on the ears than I did for the nose. Part of the joy of as much practice as I'm getting in crocheting is kind of learning how to make it my own. And so I can, not always, but sometimes I can look at something. Now I'm at the point where I can look at something and figure out how it's made and then make it my own. I think in amigurumi especially that's fun because I have been doing more amigurumi. I never thought I would get into amigurumi, but I've learned so much just by doing and by trying things out. And so this was really fun. And I felt really confident that I could figure out how to make my own version of a pig in a blanket. And again, the holiday colors there, super fun. I think it'll be a really cute ornament for the ornament swap, and I hope that it goes home to a very loving home in the near future. Well, it would have to be because the party is coming up really soon. Okay. All right, so those are my Christmas ornaments that I've made. What else have I done in this month? Well, let me actually jump you back in time to talk about a project that is, spoilers, is ongoing. Y'all, I am done, but also maybe I'm not done with this project. In fact, I know I'm not done. I'm not satisfied with how this came out with the solution I have. Now, this is the Namari cowl. I have done all of the mosaic work, but I played yarn chicken and I lost here at the top ribbing. So as you can see, I got a completely different yarn. Y'all, believe it or not, this was the best match that I could come up with for what I had. I didn't go to a local yarn store. I went to my local yarny thrift store because I thought, for only like a few yards of yarn, because it's only what, like 6 or at the most 8 rows of single crochet, I didn't want to buy a whole new skein of yarn. But I wanted to take a minute and show you guys where I'm at here. Look at the shape of that. I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be, but I kind of have this idea that I'm actually not done. I don't think I'll be satisfied with that because it's so stark. And this is such a gorgeous cowl. I want to be able to enjoy it. So let me see if I just try it on. How would that be? So I guess I could have it where the ribbing is kind of tucked under anyway, and you wouldn't see it. I could do that. Okay, so that's one option, to just have it tucked under, in which case, what is even the point of having it there? The other thought is if it were going up, you know, because you have that shape anyway, and maybe it will come out in the blocking. Maybe this bottom part will stretch out more. But if it were up, how would that be? Okay, so here's my thought as well. I've already redone this a couple of times, not the entirety of it, but a big chunk of it, because originally in the pattern, it has you connecting every stitch, and like with slip stitches, because you're crocheting it as you go. You're not like creating the ribbing and then sewing it on. You're just crocheting it right on. So I ended up skipping every other stitch. So maybe if I take this out, maybe I reduce the number of rows here. You can kind of see in the middle how I was kind of like, I would do 1 stitch and then I would do 2 stitches and then I would do 1 and then I would do 2. Maybe I might, I don't know, just change that a little bit and do less frequent rows, fewer rows altogether, because the problem I was having originally was that it was ruffling, and you can still see it's still kind of wavy a little bit. So I don't know if that's part of mosaic, part of this design, or again, if it's something that's supposed to kind of come out in the blocking. But it is kind of sad for me at this moment because, y'all, this takes so long. Y'all, this is the reason that I don't tend to do top up hats. Like, I don't like starting at the brim and going up because these ribbing sections always take me forever. But there isn't a rush on this. This is a project just for myself, but it is one that has been a work in progress for a very long time. Look, you guys, I'm thinking here, I'm really gonna have to just take this out because it's just not working for me. Y'all, wish me luck. If push comes to shove, I have more of the dark green. I could add that back in and try to do that all the way around, but I want to spare myself if I can. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this aside for now. It's not fully done. None of my ends are woven in, but it is done enough for right now. I feel like I just need to step away and do some other things and kind of gather my internal emotional resources to like press through and really finish this in a way that I'm going to be happy to wear, because it is gorgeous and I do want to wear it. So I'll catch up with you whenever I end up doing this with whatever I was talking about. Okay, so yes, the Namari cowl. I really do hope that I will find it in me to finish this project, y'all. That is one of my longest works in progress I have ever had, and I was so close. Isn't it so discouraging when you lose yarn chicken and then like where do you find that matching yarn again? It's just impossible. So yes, it is sitting there. I can see it right now. It's over to the side. I need to bite the bullet and pull out all of that ribbing at the top, and just do it. Just do it. Once it's done, it'll be done, and I probably won't think about that project for a long time, but hopefully I'll love wearing it. But yeah, that's something like once kind of life calms down a little bit, you know, we're just getting out of Thanksgiving, we're heading into Christmas, and y'all, it feels like life just doesn't stop. Like you take a breath and then you jump back in and it just gets wild. So that's something that I'll worry about in the future. I do want to talk about, before anything else, I want to talk about one more finished object. I want to talk about 2 works in progress, which maybe by the time that you're seeing this video, maybe I'll have a picture of one of them. And then I do want to talk a little bit about Vlogmas, what that means to me, what I hope I could accomplish, because I've never done it before. And it's like, I'm thinking about my life and like, do I really want to commit to trying to do videos every day up until Christmas? But also, what if I did? Like, what if I just tried and saw what happened? So all that to say, let me show you real quick my last kind of finished work from the month of November. That is this shawl. And you see I have my beautiful jade pin here. This was my grandmother's. I was able to inherit some of her jewelry, and the jade pieces especially were lovely to me. And it works really well because there's that kind of jade green in the shawl. Now I'm not, as you see, I'm not unfolding it. That's because I have a whole dedicated video that I'm gonna release about this shawl, so stay tuned for that if you're interested. But I did want to acknowledge that that was a big piece that I finished. Oh, and that reminds me, hold on one second. Speaking of pieces that are gonna be in future videos or previous videos or just crossover, y'all, I finished this cardigan. I finished this cream colored cardigan, and maybe you saw it, kind of that sneak preview in the video that I made about wearing crochet for 30 days. Y'all, this cardigan, first of all, I love it. But second of all, it took me, maybe they always do. Like maybe that's why we put so much of our heart into our crochet, because it takes so long. And you know, you push through to finish, and it feels really good to finish. So let me talk some about this. When last you saw me, I was still connected to the sleeves, but of course the sleeves are done now. You can kind of see where the seams are, and I was trying to keep it pretty even with my little spaces here. I want to show the buttons. I have my vintage buttons on there, that kind of pearly white. And I do want to acknowledge that I didn't end up going back and blocking it. But I did something that I never thought I would ever do, and I wouldn't recommend to anyone. But remember how I was saying that one side of this was really kind of drawn up because my original starting chain was really tight. And so it was doing this horrible thing where it was just laying really funny, where one side was really tight and the other was loose. And so anyway, what I ended up doing, I tried to go into that original seam, and I tried to like run some stitches back and forth with that original chain. I was working on one side of the chain and then coming and working on the other side. And so I ended up cutting that chain. So first I ran some yarn back through there and tried to pick up all the stitches. Yeah, and I cut that chain to loosen it up and to help it kind of relax. I think, now it's the inside, so it looks kind of gnarly, and that's okay. But I think it's okay. It hasn't fallen apart. I have been pretty diligent to reinforce it. So rather than trying to get it out and blocking, I felt like it would be worth it to just try to cut that yarn, cut that original chain, and let it relax that way. So you can kind of see under here, I don't know if that's a feature or a bug. I might actually need to go back in the underarm and kind of stitch that up a little bit just to make sure, because you can see that hanging off there. I might actually, maybe I'll do that right after I finish this video, just to be sure that in that seam where the sleeve is meeting the side, that doesn't get too much damage, because that is a place that will get a lot of wear and tear, a lot of movement there. But yeah, y'all, I love this sweater. I love it so much. it has definitely filled a void in my wardrobe. It's that nice kind of cooler white color. It's not like a sharp white. It's still kind of like a soft but cool white. And the reason I thought of it was because I used the extra of that in this Christmassy shawl that I have. So I did play yarn chicken on that. I did have a little bit left that I can pull out and do that fix right there. But I had to acknowledge that this cardigan is finished. And because it's finished, I feel no shame in starting another one. And this is the beginning. Now, normally when I do my cardigans, I don't like to do like raglan style. I don't like to do top down. I try to avoid as much sewing as possible. But this one, y'all, I just thought, let's go for it. Let's try something new. So this is a, I think the color of this is oyster, but it's like an alpaca blend. It's from Knit Picks. Let me see here. Ah, yes. Upcycle alpaca blend, sport weight, color is oyster, 273 yards. There it is. But I have 10 of these, and so my thought is to do this cardigan, this kind of grid or mesh at the yoke, and then as it goes down, after I split for the sleeves, I'm gonna start doing like a floral pattern. So where did the inspiration for this come from? Well, I was looking through some of my Ravelry favorites, and I saw this adorable cardigan that had a hood, and it was made for a little girl. And I thought, hey, I wonder how easy it would be to do something similar to that, except in a grown-up size. So rather than trying to just do the little girl cardigan, I found a cardigan pattern that was really similar, that had a similar yoke, by Joy of Motion Crochet. So that's what I've been following on this part here. And I think her cardigan calls for a much larger, like a worsted weight yarn rather than a sport weight, but it was enough to kind of get me started. And so now I'm just gonna work on this until it fits. It looks like it might be a little tight at the top, to be honest. But that's okay. It'll be kind of a round neckline. Yeah, that'll be sweet. That'll work. And I can always add a bit of a neckline, and of course I'll do a button band down the front too. So yeah, so this is the beginning of a brand new cardigan, and I'm hoping that since it has that kind of window pane texture, that will help me in making the yarn last. I think I'll have more than enough, but again, since I'm kind of coming up with my own pattern with it, vaguely, I will just kind of have to wait and see. But this is a good kind of mindless pattern. I really love that I'm finally started on this, because after this cardigan, I only have one more, and I have a design that I really want to do for that one too. So I'm really working my way through my stash, and it's making my heart really happy. There is a shawl that I do want to start. It's the Copper Beach shawl, and I have yarn set aside for that. So even though I have a shawl finished, I do want to start a shawl. And I think I'm going to start that pretty soon, but not until I finish 2 more Christmas ornaments. Okay, yeah, you thought I was done talking about it, but I'm not. That's because we have a work in progress. And I only started this last night, y'all. I'm using Crafter's Secret, which is pretty, well, it's a worsted weight cotton, and it's pretty stiff. But this is the beginning of a little mad wizard amigurumi, also by Little Crochet Farm, and I'm going to make 2 of them, and they are going to be kind of like gnomes. So I'm doing the blue for the body. I'm going to do this green for the hat and for the, what do you call it, for the cape, the cloak. This is not Crafter's Secret, it is Forest. And then I'm going to use a bit of this kind of cream color to do like the face, and then I'll have some white for the beard. So that maybe by the time that I'm releasing this video, maybe that will be done. Maybe I can get this done today or tomorrow. But yeah, that would be a lot of fun if I could do that. And then I could drop in the picture right here. Yeah, so once I get 2 of these done, I have set myself the task of 1 as a gift and then 1 is going on my tree. I'm really excited to have so much of Christmas kind of done in terms of crochet. Now all I have to think about is the actual shopping stuff and all the rest. In terms of Vlogmas, well, if I say to myself, okay, I'm going to try to do 25 videos, I can already feel myself being a little overwhelmed. So what I think I'm going to do is just upload a bit more frequently. I do want to share with you some of the more crochet heavy content, but I do also want to show maybe some of the Christmassy things that I can get up to with the family or in this area, and just kind of have shorter videos peppered in there too. So in order to kind of self-care, I'm not going to promise 25 days of Vlogmas. I do want to go at my own pace, put out videos that are just kind of Christmassy and fun if I'm able to, and if the mood strikes. Complicated Knots is also doing 12 days of crochet, and I'm really excited because she's hinted that it might be kind of mischievous woodland creatures themed, maybe a squirrel, maybe a raccoon. So I actually want to try to keep up with her this year. I know that she listed out, and this was through her Discord server, but she listed out a bunch of colors that you would need, and I don't have any of them. So I'm thinking of maybe going back to my wild and crazy Willow Daily DK. So can you imagine a panda, or no, not a panda, can you imagine a raccoon that's in those blues and aquas? Like, wouldn't that be so fun and ridiculous? I think it would be great. So yeah, raccoon, squirrel, maybe there's going to be a skunk. Anyway, I'm really excited for that. And if I get to do that, then maybe that will be included in my Vlogmas uploads. Yeah, so that is kind of what to look for on this channel. I am going to keep up with some of my standard kind of crochet stuff, kind of holiday themed, and I will pepper in from time to time. I think I'll maybe hashtag Vlogmas 2025 rather than numbering it. Maybe not putting the pressure on myself to do so many uploads, and just do the things that really make my heart happy. Because I think maybe that's what you're here for. You know, you don't need me to be something I'm not. You just want to hang out with me as if we're friends, as if we're sitting and talking. And I, on occasion, do catch my breath. So yeah, that's the plan, and hope that gives you enough of a heads up. Thank you, y'all, so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you for spending your time with me. Thank you for all of your encouragement, your comments, your likes, subscribes, all that kind of stuff. Thank you to those of you who are newer to the channel, and thank you to those of you who have hung out for a while. Do let me know in the comments if you're interested in any kind of Vlogmas stuff. Let me know if you have a favorite face scrubby pattern that you like. Let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything I can do for you. I'd love to do what I can. If for whatever reason I'm not your cup of tea, thank you so much for listening this long. I do appreciate you, and I do hope I'll see you again soon. Bye.